people around you, I have come with a message prepared for you from the Lord. I have come this morning to have some things pushed aside. I have come this morning to speak to men who feel that they have been pushed aside, disrespected, offended, and just plain forgotten. I have come with the word from the Lord to remind you that you may be down. You may be feeling all by yourself. You may be feeling as if nobody understands where you are. But help me say, I am not. I don't know about you, but there are times in my life when an entire church full of people surrounds me when I walk in here, and I have all of these folks around me who want to talk to me, who want to get me to understand where they are. I have people who support me and even love me, but in the midst of all of that, there are times when I feel alone. I think that if I were going to take a survey this morning, I would find men sitting right here this morning who feel alone in their marriage, feel alone in their families, feel alone on their jobs. I believe that if I were to take a survey in this church, I would find men who feel alone sitting right here in the church, on the deacon's board, but alone, singing on the choir, but alone, or ushering at the back door, but alone. Do I have anybody to say amen? It would not surprise me if right here among God's men, I would find men who feel dislocated, who feel alone, who feel misunderstood, who feel pushed aside. And it does not matter whether you are a superstar, surrounded by thousands, or the single mother, or even the homeless person. You will find people who feel alone, distressed, forgotten, and all by themselves. All you got to do is visit any bus station. All you got to do is go by any airport terminal or look at any hotel lobby in our city, and you will find people who feel left out. You will find people who feel all by themselves. The city of Lodebar, help me say Lodebar. The city of Lodebar could be described as a city a city filled with lonely people. The very meaning of Lodebar means not having or without a pasture. Lodebar was like any city in America, full of forgotten people. It was a city filled with people who sat around and lived among themselves, but these were people who felt all by themselves. One preacher has said that in this city of Lodebar, we would find the lost, we would find the unskilled, we would find the uneducated, and the cast out members of society. These people would be people who would be scorned, who would be the scorned of the city. Lodebar, help me say Lodebar. Lodebar was filled with people who would pass by and pay no attention to you. Lodebar was filled with people who would pass by you and give you no, and would not pay any attention to you. Lodebar was filled with people who would be just another statistic on any government report. Lodebar was filled with estranged people who were estranged with no family, no job, poverty-stricken, and barely getting by from day to day. If you resided in Lodebar, you would live among the runaways. You would live among street people. If you lived in Lodebar, people who were trying to get away with something would be the people that you would be around every day. But not only would you find these people, you would also find a man by the name of Mephibosheth. I could say that 3 times. Mephibosheth. Say it with me. Mephibosheth. Now, who was Mephibosheth? You might ask. I'm so glad that you did. I'm so glad that you did, because it is very important that you know who and why he is important to us this morning. In this town of forgotten people, in this town of dislocated people, in this town of forgotten people lives Mephibosheth, who happens to be the son of David's best friend, Jonathan. Jonathan was the son of King Saul, thus making Mephibosheth the only living relative of Israel's first king. Now, I have to give you a picture of the city. I have given you a picture of the city of Lodabar and Mephibosheth. Let me share with you the life of David. Life for David couldn't be any better. He has just been crowned king. His throne room smells like fresh paint. And the city manager is laying out new neighborhoods throughout the city of Jerusalem. The Ark of the Covenant lies in the tabernacle. There is gold and silver everywhere. David has beaten Israel's enemies into submission, and they remain at a distance. The days of ducking Saul and hiding in caves is a distant memory, and now he can enjoy the good life. And so we have two pictures of two men who live in two different cities. One is Lodabar, where people who live there are not there because they have done anything wrong. The people who live in Lodabar are not there because of their own fault. Mephibosheth. All right. Mephibosheth. I knew I was going to have this problem. Mephibosheth was not there because he was bad. He was not there because of anything he had done. He was there, we are told, because he was crippled in both feet. He was crippled in both feet. His crippled situation was the result of consequences beyond his control that were placed on him when he was a baby. His circumstances were not created by him or by virtue of his birth. He was not born crippled. He was not born physically challenged. He was not even born alone. 2 Samuel 4:4 tells us that Mephibosheth was being cared for by a nurse while his father Jonathan was away in war. When the word came that Jonathan and his father Saul were killed, the nurse grabbed up Mephibosheth and in an effort to protect him, dropped him on the ground. And when she dropped him on the ground, she injured both of his feet for life. Are you with me? She dropped him on the ground and injured him for life. When she dropped him, she caused him to be physically challenged for his entire life. Biblical commentators say that he was only 5 years old when his father died. And when this happened, and now he has to spend all of his life being cared for by somebody else. And because he lived in Lodabar, he carved out a living from handouts and from a few who lived better than him, and a forgotten place called Lodabar. David. Can I hear you say David? David, on the other hand, is living in the king's city, enjoying the king's life. He is seated in the lap of luxury, surrounded by people whose only purpose in life was to make him happy. People who wanted nothing more than to please and serve him. David, who united Israel under one rule, established a Levitical city and made Jerusalem a religious center of the world, and promised God and his people that he would build a temple. But let us, for just a moment, go back to the city of Lodabar. I want you to see yourself. I want you to see yourself in Mephibosheth's place for just a moment. Mephibosheth knows that he is a descendant of the king Saul. And that very fact, ladies and gentlemen, puts his life in jeopardy. In those days, it was customary and necessary that when one king was overthrown, his entire family was killed off. Am I right about it? In those days, whenever one king took over and there were other members of the previous king's family still alive, that king, by necessity, would kill them. This was done so that there could be no revenge or a future backwater town called And I'm sure that he spent many nights wondering how long it would be before the soldiers of King David would come looking for him. How many days did he look down the dirt road and wonder if today would be the day that they would come and take him away? Now I need to pause here, gentlemen, 100 men of God. I need to pause here and remind you that none of this was Mephibosheth's fault.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Just like the predicament that many of you find yourselves in, none of it is your fault.
Right.
It wasn't your fault it wasn't his fault that his daddy died. It wasn't his fault that the nurse had dropped him, and it wasn't his fault that the doctors could not help him. And I need to stop here again and remind all this body of brothers who may have grown up in their own loader bars, who may have grown up with loader bars all around them, that you had no control over. You need to know before you leave this door that it was not your fault. Some of you were raised in difficult situations. Maybe you were raised in poverty or on welfare or on handouts. Maybe like me, you know something about surplus food.
Oh, yeah.